Well, greetings, fixed blade aficionados. This is this old sword coming to you from Fixed Blade Central today. Oh, yes, you're going to see a lot of larger fixed blades. And highlighting today this newer offering from T.KELL knives, the Sapper. And the Sapper is a collaboration between T.KELL of T.KELL Knives, TKELL, and Imri Morgentstern of Prime Combat Training and Tactical Rifleman, IDF operator. They teamed up to create an elite blade designed for the demands of the war fighter, civilian soldier, survivalist, bushcrafter, and hunter alike. So whether it's clearing roads, digging tunnels, penetrating fortifications, or clearing land mines, the Sapper excels in every environment you can throw at it. And the definition of a Sapper is, 1, a military specialist in field fortification work, such as sapping, and a military demolitions specialist. So there you have a fair amount of information from the TKELL website. I am going to provide you with that link, and you can read up on this at length. But let's take a look at it. I'm sure you're tired of hearing me talk and of staring at the knife in the sheath. Now, it's in there tight. One of the reasons is that this can be used by guys jumping out of planes, and I know Imri has mentioned that he likes a knife that's not going to jump out of the sheath when he jumps out of a plane. This one is from AELB. We'll take a look at the sheath later. By the way, it's got its own tensioner and lots of ways to mount it, as well as adjust the tension on the blade through that tensioner. So this is a relatively new steel that's being used. When I say new steel, it's a well-known steel, AELB. But it was chosen for its stain resistance, while usually Tim, I believe, is using either 1095 or the 80 series. So this steel is known to hold an edge almost as well as 5100 steel, 52100 steel, and yet be stain resistant, unlike 52100 steel. We have a relatively thin handle profile, and yet it is great in my medium-large hands and should be great with gloves on. It is a very unusual grip and an unusual blade. You can see a line going down the middle there. That's not a mistake, and that's not a flaw in manufacture. That is so that when you hold a knife like this in the palm, you can probe for mines and feel them. And that's what Imri wanted, was a knife, because he is a demolitions guy as well. And unlike most of the rest of us, he's had experience in looking for mines. Pretty incredible. There you see the TKELL logo. It is a heavily stonewashed blade, and yet it does have the nickel boron coating, which is a Rockwell 70. And also, don't forget to read up on the steel. There's quite a bit on the page about this knife regarding the steel, that how it is tempered, and the sub-zero 24-hour quench, and all kinds of good stuff. But you can see that this is a recurve blade, and it is a great chopper, as well as could be a food prep, could be certainly combat defensive use. We've got what almost amounts to a sub-hilt here. In fact, we could call it a sub-hilt with finger grooves, and this bullet style grips. You can replace the grips on all TKELL knives, and choose the color that you would like, including multi-layer options and camo options and wood grain options, different screws and so forth. This has the lashing screws and they're in black. The lashing screws allow you to thread some cord through there and paracord, what have you, and lash it to a stick or a stake or whatever. Shovel, I don't know. It's a fairly good weight knife, but again, it is slim and rides very nicely against the hip or the pack or wherever you choose to carry this knife. Great clip point on that. Extremely strong reinforced tip. You can really beat on this guy. It was designed for it. Well, after all of that, 6 minutes worth by my timeline here on the camera, let's get some measurements, shall we? Overall length of exactly a foot, 12 inches. And that's close enough to 6.5 inches that we'll call that a 6.5 inch blade with a 6.25 inch cutting edge. And then as far as other dimensions go, I'm in millimeters, so let's do the blade stock. 4.8 millimeters, almost a 5 millimeter blade. I believe it works out to 3/16. So we have 0.19 and a handle thickness of only 0.59. Did I say that? 0.58, 0.58, and 0.19. Yep. It's early, my usual excuse. I like to get these done in the morning so I can start work on time. Here's the weight of the knife alone. And we have 13.8 ounces, we'll call that. With the sheath, because that's important with anything you're going to wear on a belt or a pack, it is over the limit of my scale. So let's do this. 5 ounces for the sheath. Okay, just add that to the weight of the blade. And all the specs are also out on TKELL's website. So one thing you notice, I was having some trouble getting this in and out. What they did on this knife is give you a friction fit as well. That's dragging right there, okay? So it's a friction fit. So should you put it in like that, it's still in there pretty good. And you could prep the knife if you knew you were going to take it out and use it by just doing that. It's not going to rattle around in there. Push it in all the way and it is locked in tight. So you want to make sure with this that it's secured on the belt, but you also have an excellent thumb ramp with its own jimping on the sheath. So you can push that off. Takes a little bit of work. If you want this guy even tighter, you can tighten up this screw. I've got it down, I had it down about medium. So that's a little easier now getting that out. And you can also slide this tensioner. It's got a little rubber washer on the other side. You can slide that up there to make it probably about as tight as you'll ever need it by cranking that down. And this also keeps the thumb screw from, there we go. Keeps the thumb screw from undoing and falling off. Let's go back to the blade again. It's already coming out a little easier. So the Sapper brought some other large knives out for compare. Most notably, an earlier model called the Mercenary by T.KELL. And so if you know the Mercenary, you can see that this is definitely a larger, heavier blade with a taller handle and a taller blade. Also in the category, we have a custom knife called the Roughneck that was produced just in a limited run by Cohen's Craft, Morgan Cohen's. This is from 52-100. And it is a wickedly sharp blade with a full finger choil. Blackened blade and natural micarta handle with a stone texture to it. Here we have the Garial by Blackrock Knives. A little bigger. Blade about just a skosh bigger. A little longer handle. So if we were to even it up pommel to pommel, we'd get about an inch longer. Beautiful stone pattern that he puts on his blades. He's noted for it. Ken Vehicate. And on the handle. Little slim on the handle for me on this one, but it isn't going to come out of your hand. You got that bird's beak. Same, you have a much more pronounced bird's beak on the Sapper. Let's put this guy back in. Ken makes great Kydex sheaths, just like Tim. Here is the Norseman by Viking Tactics design from Tops Knives. This is a really popular knife and about the same size, more of a Bowie clip. We've got a recurve Bowie clip here, if you want to call it that. Much taller handle, much narrower handle, and a little thicker with a nice vine jimping and red liners. Beautiful knife. They are pricey. You know, I think this is $375 is what Tim is getting for this Sapper. So it's not a cheap knife, and these are going to be available as of this video in, I'm recording this on the 6th of July, and this is coming out August 15th for the initial orders. It's on pre-order, and you'll have all that information. Let's get this back in. What else have we got? I think we got one more that sort of qualifies. It's a little less what you call heavy duty and more of a fighter. And this is the Assault Calypse by Bastinelli Knives. Very wide, tall Sax style blade with a full fuller, and probably one of the most comfortable fixed blades that I've ever felt and that you may ever feel. Just the way that Bastinelli does this particular grip with this high arch and the finger grooves and the thumb ramp is just extraordinary. Can't rave enough over Bastinelli knives. They're a little bit light on the sheaths, but you may find them to be exactly what you need. Let's take another look around. Very rough finish, meaning stonewashed, smooth. And this nickel boron coating is like Teflon. It helps the knife to slide through when cutting, when penetrating, and it provides a protective finish. Not that you would need it so much for AELB, which is stainless, but just this is such a good fitting knife. And this one is on loan to me from TKELL. This is not a purchase. And this needs to go back because he is very short in supply on them. But I do appreciate Tim sharing this with me so that I can share it with you. And if you're in need of this type of knife, a combat knife, multi-purpose with a rugged sheath, definitely look into it. We got the double DCC clips on these with an add-on mount. There's a name for this. It's a multi-purpose mount. This can go up and down. We've got slots. We've got grommets. And it's a very nice, thick, beautifully molded sheath, as are all of TKELL's sheaths. They fit perfectly. Well, there you have it. And you can pick up more info about this knife by going to Tim's website with the link that I give you. And check it out. You might be in the market for it. But get in early. There are pre-orders. Be well, take care. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe.